In my past life, I got on the wrong car and mistakenly married my childhood friend, Lucas. But Lucas was in love with my cousin, and because of this, he hated me to the core. He blamed me for making him lose his true love. During a land reclamation mission, Lucas deliberately tricked me into stepping on a leftover landmine from the war. Unexpectedly, my cousin, who happened to arrive at the same time, was also blown up and killed. After my cousin and I died, Lucas cried as he carefully pieced together her body and gave her a proper burial. I was left lying dead in the wilderness with no one to claim my body. What I didn't expect was that the blacksmith I was originally supposed to marry not only buried my body piece by piece under the peach tree, but even took his own life by my grave the year after I died. When I opened my eyes again and my uncle and aunt arranged my engagement once more, I didn't hesitate to say yes. This time I won't run away. I'm going to marry the man who in my past life buried me with his own hands and died for me. As for that inseparable runaway couple, I'll let them have their way. A sharp pain shot through my wrist, and before I could react, a harsh, cutting voice rang out. Wendy, you don't get to call the shots in this family. I'm telling you, right now, whether you want to or not, you will marry that blacksmith named Gavin. I looked around in shock, only to suddenly realize I had been reborn 6 years earlier. For a bride price of 200 coins, my uncle and aunt quickly agreed to sell me off as Gavin's wife, the blacksmith with a notorious reputation. In my past life, I resisted to the death, but they found every possible way to get me drunk and have me marry on the same day as my cousin. Unfortunately, the carriage took the wrong person. My cousin married into the Chin family, and I went to the Lin family. Making the best of a bad situation, I married Lucas with a heart full of joy, only to find myself plunged into a hell as deep as the sea. Fortunately, God gave me a chance to start over. My second uncle lit a dry tobacco stick, pointed at my forehead, and cursed. The Gavin family runs a shop. They're capable and wealthy. What are you dissatisfied with? I smiled. Riley, if it's so good, why not let my cousin marry him? It's said that Gavin bullies men and women alike and commits all sorts of evils. But it's only because Gavin's notorious reputation is widespread. Yet they want the Ching family's bride price money as my cousin's dowry. So they selfishly sacrifice me. What's worse, even the dowry left to me by my parents was secretly given to my cousin by the two of them. A sudden flash of the man's tenderness from my past life crossed my mind, and I chuckled softly, nodding. I'm very satisfied. Now it was their turn to stand there, stunned, looking as if they'd seen a ghost. After a long moment, my second aunt widened her eyes and warned me. Wendy, you better not try any tricks on me, or you'll regret it. The wedding was set for a week later. No sooner had they left than Lucas arrived. Pushing open the door, a barrage of scolding hit me head on. Wendy, you wretched woman. It's all your fault Nikki died. Luckily, God has eyes. I've come back to punish you. You venomous woman. He grabbed my neck and shouted angrily, his hateful gaze as sharp as ever. At that moment, I knew he had been reborn, too. Perhaps my indifference had provoked him. He suddenly threw me aside. My head instantly hit the wooden table next to me, quickly swelling red and painful. But he just looked at me coldly and mercilessly said, Remember, the only person I want to marry is Nikki. If you dare to scheme your way into the Lin family again this time, I will make sure you suffer worse than death. I had never experienced suffering worse than death, but in my last life, dying without a whole body was all thanks to him. I sneered and retorted. Who said, I'm going to marry you? The moment I finished speaking, a look of surprise instantly froze on his face. He looked at me puzzled. Don't think I don't know. You won't marry anyone but me. I advise you to give up that idea. After all, a toad wanting to eat swan meat isn't that easy. I almost laughed out of anger. How can someone be so shamelessly self-righteous? Who's the toad here, after all, is still up for debate. The Lin family had long ago moved to town and were seen by everyone as the most prosperous family in the village, but in reality, they were destitute and down on their luck. A family of idlers with a bunch of bizarre relatives. It was all just an act put on by Lucas. Taking a deep breath, I grabbed a broom and started chewing him out. He was furious. You're asking for it, Wendy. We'll see about this. Watching him run off so fast, I couldn't help but chuckle. But the next second, I suddenly fell silent. Gavin was passing by outside, carrying an iron hoe. The autumn sun shone on his handsome face, and the muscles on his arms flexed powerfully with each step. I stopped what I was doing and stared at him without blinking. It was so good to see him alive and well again. I instinctively called out to him, Gavin, as if sensing my burning gaze. The man pretended to be aloof and turned his head away, but the faint blush on his ears betrayed his true feelings at that moment. Looking at this awkward wooden fellow, I couldn't help but laugh out loud. Then, without looking away, I walked over and took the empty water jug from his hand into the kitchen. When I came back out, I was carrying 2 iron lunchboxes. With a surprised look in Gavin's eyes, I suddenly shoved the lunchboxes into his hands. I made dumplings, some with meat, and some vegetarian. Take them home and share them with your aunt. If you like them, once I marry in, I'll make them for you every day. As soon as I finished speaking, he lowered his eyes and met mine. His deep eyes were filled with disbelief, but in an instant he returned to his usual cold demeanor and glanced away. No need. You should save them for someone else. My breath caught. Suddenly I recalled the tragic scene of the man's suicide at the grave in my past life, and my heart involuntarily ate. Without hesitation, I shut the lunchbox into his arms. Not for anyone else, just for you. The debt I owed him for my previous life, I would repay with the rest of my days. But in Lucas's eyes, he thought I was flirting with other men. A man so arrogant yet so pathetic could never accept that. The next moment he gripped my wrist tightly. Fine, Wendy. You're nothing but a shameless seducing men everywhere. The bulging veins on his forehead revealed his fury. I could almost hear his soul roaring. The knot in my heart loosened considerably, and I raised an eyebrow, retorting, What's wrong with me bringing 2 boxes of dumplings to my fiancé? You. Lucas was choked with anger, but powerless to retort. His face flushed bright red, and he couldn't utter a word. After a long moment, he angrily swept his sleeve and left. Watching his disheveled retreat, I was in an unusually good mood. Lucas returned, this time accompanied by his elegantly dressed cousin. The two of them linked arms, swaggering arrogantly right in front of me. I've heard everything from Lucas. Wendy, what you owed us in your past life, you still can't repay in this one. I advise you to be sensible and work like a beast of burden to atone, or else you'll regret it. As she spoke, she flicked the dust from under her nails. Oh, Dear, my shoe's a bit dirty.
Why?
Don't you kneel down and clean it for me? She wore a trendy floral dress and little leather shoes. In contrast, I was dressed in a tattered, patched-up shirt, mended again and again. But all these things were bought with the hard-earned money my parents left behind. In the last life, she squandered it all, even selling the only bracelet my mother had left me. Just thinking about it made me want to tear her to pieces. But until I got back my mother's heirloom, I couldn't completely sever ties with
them.
I pretended to crouch down and grab the hem of her dress, about to wipe her shoes. Both of us wore mocking smiles on our faces. But within that smile, I lifted my foot and stomped hard on her new shoe, then quickly stood up. With a loud crack, my skull slammed into Nikki's chin. The impact not only split her lip, but also made her nose bleed. The next second, her scream echoed through the sky.
At the same time, a
sharp pain shot through my skull, but it was worth it. Nikki was clutching her bloodied nose, screaming loudly.
The
sight was both ridiculous and comical. Bright red blood gushed out, staining her dress. It wasn't until Lucas tore a strip of cloth that the bleeding was
stopped.
She raised her palm, ready to slap me across the face. You filthy woman, I'll beat you to death.
But she
underestimated my agility honed from years of hard work. I caught her raised hand in one swift move. Then with the other hand, I delivered a heavy slap across her face. Soon, half of her face swelled up red. I glanced at her coolly, curling my lips into a cold smirk. You're the one who poured oil into the
pan.
Let's see if the oil splashes or if it's you, you wretch. Nikki, furious, hid in Lucas's arms, sobbing. Lucas, she's bullying me like this. You have to stand up for me. Lucas pointed at me and shouted, You venomous woman. I advise you to apologize to Nikki immediately, or don't blame me for being ruthless. With that, he stormed forward angrily, but I grabbed a shovel in response. Seeing the fierce look in my eyes, he hesitated and backed down. Before, I never hit anyone, because Lucas said he liked gentle girls. To cater to his preference, I always kept a virtuous and mild temperament. So whenever Nikki provoked me, I neither cursed back nor fought back. Looking back now, it just seems ridiculously foolish. From now on, I will live only for myself and never endure humiliation again. It was noon, and the villagers returning from the fields had completely surrounded the doorway, leaving no room to pass. Lucas immediately put on a look of deep hurt. Wendy, I never knew you could be so vicious to even injure your own cousin. How could you? And here we were trying to reason with you kindly. As soon as he finished speaking, I shrugged indifferently. Well, now you know. He struggled to suppress the trembling at the corners of his mouth, momentarily at a loss for words. Soon, murmurs spread through the crowd. Oh my. So Wendy's gentleness was just an act all along. Looks like what Sister Mary said was true. She's always bullying Nikki. What a sin.
Tom is such
a good man, and yet he has a daughter like this. Before I could open my mouth to defend myself, a tall and imposing figure suddenly stood in front of me. She's not that kind of person.
It was Gavin.
I was a little surprised.
He was
always solitary and tacit, yet he was standing up for me.
It felt as if a
gentle feather brushed against my heart, delicate emotions spreading endlessly. What others thought of me no longer mattered. I only cared about his. In the blink of an eye, the wedding day arrived. As scheduled, these past few days I found any excuse to be near Gavin. The night before the wedding, Gavin brought Me a set of red dress and a hairpiece. The exquisite fabric was clearly expensive. A warm current swept through my heart.
I
Had to admit, being cared for felt truly wonderful. The wedding proceeded smoothly, but Lucas was not willing to let it go. Before the procession, he quietly sneaked into the courtyard and knocked on my windowsill. Wendy, I'll ask you one last time. Are you really going to marry that fierce, terrifying man? Will you regret it and cry later?
I
Crossed my arms and retorted, whether I marry or not is my business. What's it
to you?
His heaving chest betrayed his anger. After he finished speaking, I mercilessly shut the window. Instinctively, he blocked it. Then his tone softened considerably as he spoke. Again, Wendy, don't be stubborn. I know you still have feelings for me. You can't just marry a man like that on a
Whim.
It's not too late to change your mind now. I can plead with your second uncle and aunt for you. Although I can't marry you, you can still be my admirer. After all, we were husband and wife in a past life. How can you marry someone else this time? He said such outrageous things with such confidence. I couldn't help but sneer, feeling mischievous. Fine. If you can return my mother's bracelet from my cousin's dowry, I'll call off the engagement when the time comes and ruin his reputation. Seeing that I agreed, he suddenly looked triumphant. It's worthless anyway, so I'll just give it back to you.
Soon.
He returned, bringing back the bracelet. I tucked it into my chest with joy now, having nothing to worry about. Moments later, the matchmaker's calls came from outside. The groom from the Chin family had arrived. I suppressed the wild excitement inside and stayed in the room without going out until whisper spread through the crowd. Lucas pounded his chest, defiantly challenging Gavin. Fool, don't wait any longer. Wendy has backed out of the marriage and run away. But the next second I stepped out of the room in a red dress. Who said I backed out and ran away? Then, under Lucas's astonished gaze, I stepped forward slowly and linked my arm with Gavin's. Wendy, how dare you play me? Lucas suddenly grabbed my wrist, panic flashing in his eyes. His voice trembled uncontrollably. As soon as he spoke, I jerked my hand free and then ruthlessly exposed his hypocritical face that wanted everything, yet refused to let go. It was Lucas who threatened me, forbidding me to marry
Gavin.
He wanted me to break off the engagement and remain his secret admirer. In the shadows, I was young and foolish before, and I did have feelings for him. But now I'm about to marry someone else. I've long let go, yet he's about to marry too, and still he clings to me. As I spoke, I covered my face and sobbed, putting on a pitiful act. The looks from the crowd instantly turned sympathetic. I forced out a few more tears and pleaded repeatedly, please, everyone, judge this fairly for me.
No sooner had
I finished speaking than whispers exploded through the crowd like a
landmine.
Is this Lucas crazy? Does he really want to pull some old-fashioned nonsense? Two sisters sharing one husband. I spit on him. Such bad luck. To regret a marriage on the wedding day itself. Doesn't he fear divine punishment? My second uncle and aunt were also furious. After all, my cousin had always been their precious darling. Given their snobbish nature, the only reason they agreed to this marriage was entirely because my cousin liked it.
Second
uncle's face turned ashen. Without a word, he grabbed a shovel and chased after him, beating him mercilessly. You, Lucas, you're never satisfied. Always wanting
more.
Are you looking for death? Lucas fled while begging for mercy. Father-in-law, mother-in-law, I was
wrong.
I was wrong. Everyone present
couldn't help but applaud.
What should have been a double celebration instantly turned into a chaotic mess. Amid the rising chorus of condemnation, I took Gavin's hand and we ran all the way to the Chin family home. Now only Gavin's mother remained there.
I
Vaguely remembered from my past life that she was a very kind aunt.
When my
Second uncle and aunt beat me badly and I knelt at the door, starving and begging for mercy. She passed by and decisively stuffed 2 white steamed buns into my hands. The Ching family lived in the neighboring village, a 10-minute drive that we somehow took 15 minutes to run. As soon as we entered, the festive sound of firecrackers burst repeatedly. Amid the swirling smoke, I turned to look at Gavin, whose forehead was already damp with sweat. Without thinking, I stood on tiptoe and rolled up my sleeves to wipe it for him. He stood stiffly, embarrassed, his ears turning red.
I
tugged at the corners of my lips in a gentle smile. How had I never noticed how adorable he was in my past life? After the firecrackers, the children squatted down to pick up the leftover firecrackers, and the banquet officially began.
At
night, amidst the laughter and chatter of everyone, everything returned to
silence.
I sat nervously on the bright red wedding quilt, my hands clasped together. I had thought it would be a sweet wedding night, but Gavin, freshly bathed, entered with a solemn expression. Without a word, he laid out the bedding on the floor, not even glancing at me.
I
know you like Lucas. Don't force yourself. When the day comes that you want to leave, just tell me. I won't
stop you.
I stood there stunned and disbelieving. In this life, I asked for nothing else. I only wished to spend my days peacefully and steadily with the one I
loved.
But now I was met with one setback after another. My nose tingled, and I couldn't help but cry out loud. Gavin's hands froze for a moment, then he hurried over to wipe away my tears. Our eyes met, and I realized the man before me had sharp, defined features, thick eyebrows, large eyes, and bronze skin that was healthy and sensuous. Everything was just right. After sighing, I suddenly threw myself into his arms, choking back tears.
Fool.
Who said I like Lucas? Can't you see? My heart and eyes are filled with you. After I spoke, the man's stunned gaze fell on me. Wendy,
don't lie to me.
I nodded and took the initiative to kiss his lips.
His breath
was heavy and his dark eyes blazed with
fierce fire.
After a long moment, I heard a low murmur. Even if you lied to me, I would gladly accept it. The next morning, I reluctantly saw Gavin off to the blacksmith shop. Before I could return to the Cheen family, the 2 persistent figures blocked my way.
I
heard that my second uncle and aunt had caused a big scene, adamantly refusing our marriage, but they couldn't resist Nikki's desperate pleas. From then on, Lucas's reputation as a scoundrel spread throughout the entire village.
But
instead of blaming his own rotten character, he turned it all on me. Wendy, you ruined my wedding like that. If I don't ruin your reputation today.
My name isn't Lynn.
The villagers who had heard the commotion quickly surrounded us in a tight circle.
The 2
of them began to sing in unison, twisting the truth so hard they made black seem white. The reason I've been so considerate toward Wendy is because she's the child of a martyr. It's not, as everyone thinks, because I'm involved with her, but she seems to have misunderstood and keeps pestering me relentlessly. As he spoke, his face was full of grievance. Nikki's eyes suddenly welled up with tears. Since we were kids, my sister has always loved stealing my things. And of course, my husband is no exception. After he finished speaking, the crowd erupted in murmurs. Amid the whispers, Lucas transformed from a scoundrel into a good man. Meanwhile, I became the jealous, scheming villainess. A cold sneer curled at Lucas's lips as he bent down to whisper in my ear, "Wendy, stop struggling.
Pleasing me is
Your best option." A chill crept through my heart. I looked at his ugly, triumphant face with cold eyes, like a twisted demon. Yet I couldn't understand why, even after getting what he wanted, he still refused to let me
go.
Besides, my parents did sacrifice themselves to save others.
But that was
No excuse for Lucas to clear his name. He didn't deserve it. I fell to my knees before him with a thud, my eyes red as I stammered, "Lucas, I'm already married. Why won't you just let me go?"
As I
spoke, I pulled out a piece of paper from my pocket and spread it out in front of everyone. It was the escape route Lucas had slipped me, the plan for my runaway marriage. He had even mapped out where I was supposed to go, as if hiding a precious treasure. The public opinion flipped once again. Lucas finally couldn't keep up the act. "Wendy, you wretch. You keep ruining my
plans.
You need to be taught a lesson or you'll never know your place."
He raised
his hand in fury, ready to slap me. Instinctively, I closed my eyes in fear. But the expected sting never came. Instead, I fell into a warm, solid embrace. Gavin's face was full of anger. My wife doesn't need anyone else to teach her a lesson. The situation became tense, like a standoff, ready to explode. It wasn't until Lucas saw my hand tightly clasped in Gavin's that he completely lost his composure. Only then did he realize that I had truly married someone else, and he seemed unable to accept this fact. "Wendy, you need to know your limits when joking around, right? Are you really
going to spend your life with someone
like that?" I cut him off sharply.
What
do you mean by someone like that?
My
husband is a good man, and it's none of your business to criticize him. Gavin was momentarily stunned, then cracked a slight smile, holding my hand even tighter. Seeing as so affectionate, Lucas suddenly burst out laughing. "Gavin, don't fool yourself. Wendy will never register your marriage." I had never seen him so unhinged before.
I
furrowed my brows in confusion. Honestly, who I'm with has nothing to do with him. He has no reason to be this agitated.
But to stop him from bothering me
further, I called out to Gavin, "Honey, we just got our marriage certificate this morning. Still fresh. Show it to him." Gavin responded and naturally pulled out the marriage certificate, spreading it out in front of Lucas.
The
large official seal left him dumbfounded. Lucas shouted in disbelief, "This is impossible. She won't marry you.
She only loves me.
In this life and the last. History
cannot be changed."
Watching him scream wildly, I found it somewhat amusing.
How
could someone who has lived 2 lives still be as foolish as a pig? Only he. And I knew about the rebirth.
To
everyone else, he just seemed crazy. Soon, mocking voices spread through the
crowd.
"Crazy? What past lives? I bet he's eaten some hallucinogenic mushrooms from the hill by the village. Always babbling nonsense. I think he's just obsessed with Wendy. Now that she's married someone else, he's losing it." As soon as he finished speaking, the crowd burst into laughter. Lucas was furious.
His face as pale as a ghost.
After a long moment, he shot me a dark, piercing look. "Wendy, just wait
and see.
Don't come crying to me in regret." With that, he stormed off in a huff, dragging Nikki along. Even after they had gone far, the sound of the villagers' mocking laughter followed them, making them stomp their feet in anger. After this incident, Lucas's reputation in the village worsened. Every holiday, whenever he returned with Nikki, the whole village would gossip about his embarrassing misadventures. Even my second uncle and aunt became the subject of whispered talk among the villagers. Unable to bear it any longer, they insisted on moving to live with the Lin family. On the day of the move, the two of them deliberately took a detour to the Qing family's place just to show off
To me.
at that time, my mother-in-law and I were happily making dumplings together. Watching the two of them so smug, I just smiled quietly without saying a word. After all, I had already experienced the Lin family's cruel ways of making life difficult in my past life. After marrying Lucas last time, not only did I have to do all the hard and dirty work at home, but I also had to watch him and my cousin indulge in their secret affections. Whenever I failed to do something well, his sharp-tongued relatives would scold me mercilessly. They even hit me, forced me out into the rain, and made me kneel. It was all too
Common.
sure enough, no more than a couple of days after moving in, the two families were at each other's throats. My uncle and aunt couldn't swallow their resentment and insisted that Lucas buy a house in town for them to live in. Lucas's nature of putting on a brave face despite being humiliated was fully exposed. Both of them felt their hearts sink halfway and relentlessly demanded that their cousin divorce and remarry.
The
Cousin, seeing the ruthless Lin family, hesitated. Meanwhile, Lin's father, Susan, upon hearing that his daughter-in-law wanted to run away just days after the wedding, insisted that divorce was fine but the bride price must be returned. Naturally, the second uncle and aunt refused. After all, who returns a duck that's already in their mouth? From then on, the two families completely tore apart their relationship and started fighting. Watching the extremely chaotic scene, Lucas was overwhelmed. So much so that he simply gave up and ran off to hide beautifully.
When I
Found him, he was actually asleep in the Qin family's woodshed. I was startled by the sudden appearance of someone in the house, but the dim kerosene lamp didn't reveal who it was, so I quickly called Gavin over. Without a word, he shielded me behind him. Then, with a heavy blow, he struck down hard, suddenly waking the person up.
The
Familiar screams echoed across the sky. Lucas clutched his injured leg, hopping up and down. But when he saw it was me, he suddenly collapsed, kneeling before me with a thud. Wendy, I was wrong.
I
Regret it. Only you have truly loved me. In the last life, you silently sacrificed for me. After marrying me, you never complained, working tirelessly, without a word. Yet I was ungrateful, not only treasuring Nikki, but even causing her death by explosion. This time, in order to marry her, I pushed you into someone else's arms.
but
Now I realize she is not nearly as virtuous or sensible as you, and her parents are nothing but beasts. I truly know my mistake. Will you forgive me? Just this once? He wept bitterly, clutching the hem of my clothes, but I felt no relief in my heart. Instead, with every word he spoke, my face grew paler. I dared not look up at Gavin, afraid to see disdain in his eyes. Even more afraid he would ask me, "Is this really true?" After a long silence, I finally hesitantly spoke to him. "Gavin."
I
But before I could finish, he suddenly pulled me into his arms. "Wendy, let's not discuss what happened in the past life. This time, you are my wife, aren't you?" His eyes were gentle, gazing at me with deep affection. His words seemed like a spell, calming my restless heart. I stood on tiptoe and left a kiss at the corner of his lips. "Husband, you're so good to me." No sooner had I spoken than Lucas glared at me with a ferocious expression. "Wendy, You've changed. I curled my lips into a merciless smile. Lucas, we've both
changed.
This time I won't revolve around you anymore. Besides, the only person I love now is Gavin, so I suggest you leave our homes immediately. After speaking, I took Gavin's hand and left. Lucas froze in place only then, suddenly realizing that I had also been reborn. I thought that once he knew the truth, he wouldn't come anymore. But after that day, he often showed up at the Ching family's house. No matter the wind or rain, he would stand there for half a day. Even when my grandmother-in-law grabbed a broom to chase him away, he refused to leave. Every time I returned from delivering meals to Gavin at the smithy, he would be pressed against the courtyard gate, eyes shining brightly. During this time, he had lost quite a bit of weight. One day, I followed Gavin back from town. After a business meeting, like presenting a treasure, he pulled a worn-out shirt from his chest and said, earnestly, Wendy, do you remember? This is the very shirt you sewed for me with your own hands. I know you've grown cold toward me, but I truly realize my mistakes. From now on, you can scold and hit me as you please. Will you divorce Gavin?
No.
Although he speaks with sincerity, deep down, he feels no remorse.
It's
only because he realized I'm more obedient than Nikki, more suited to be a beast of burden for their family.
I
mercilessly snatched the shirt from his hand and threw it to the ground, then let out a soft, mocking laugh. That's an 800-year-old piece of clothing and you still keep it. Could it be that the Lin family is so poor they can't even afford a new outfit? Lucas's face turned pale, and he hurriedly tried to explain. No, Wendy, I just wanted to prove that we once loved each other. I couldn't help but roll my eyes. You said it yourself. It was once.
Now I just want to live my own life well. If
you come to bother me again, don't blame me for being rude. After saying that, I brusquely kicked him out. He lowered his brows in dejection, but still stubbornly grabbed the hem of my clothes. Gavin, beside me, could no longer hold back. Suddenly, he raised his fist and struck the man's face. The muscles on his arm were solid and powerful, scaring Lucas into retreating repeatedly. I watched his pitiful display with interest when suddenly a sharp female voice rang out from behind. Lucas, what's going on? Seeing the redness and swelling on Lucas's cheek, Nikki clenched her teeth in anger. Wendy, you venomous woman. How dare you hit him? She wore a mournful expression, tenderly holding the man's cheek and blowing on
it.
Lucas, let's go home, okay? Wendy, is it worth your concern? Watching the two of them so full of affection before me, I couldn't help but sneer mockingly. Compared to your opportunism, I'm honestly no match. And please keep your man in check. Don't go flirting around. Who knows, next time it might not just be your face that gets hit. Nikki snorted coldly, linking her arm with Lucas's as she tried to leave. But Lucas forcefully threw her to the ground. Nikki, we're about to get divorced. Don't bother controlling me. Besides, I've seen plenty of women as scheming as you, and none of them even come close to Wendy's little finger. No sooner had he spoken than a provoked Nikki suddenly erupted hysterically. No, I won't
divorce you.
You belong to me and only me, Wendy, can forget about it. Watching the once inseparable couple bickering fiercely, I felt both annoyed and amused. I knew well that Nikki had been jealous since childhood, always meddling in anything related to me.
Now
that Lucas was chasing after me relentlessly, the woman who had planned to divorce him suddenly changed her mind. Out of the blue, now she was even willing to sever ties with my second uncle and aunt, but refused to divorce I shrugged and retorted, "Not everyone likes cowards. A man as worthless as that, even if he knelt before me, I wouldn't spare him a
glance."
As the words left my mouth, the light in Lucas's eyes dimmed inch by
inch.
2 streams of tears immediately
Fell.
I don't know when the 2 of them
Left.
I just felt an unprecedented sense of relief after saying those words.
And
From that moment on, Lucas never came back. Life went on steadily and
peacefully.
Gavin's shop business grew better and better. Even the farmers in town came specifically to him to order farming
Tools.
and the money he earned after covering the shop's daily expenses was all handed over to me for safekeeping. With my career booming and savings steadily growing, a bold idea began to take root in my heart. That very night, I proposed expanding the shop, opening one in town and hiring 2 more assistants to work alongside us.
I had
Thought Gavin wouldn't support the idea, but to my surprise, he agreed readily. So after buying a house in town, the 3 of us moved there. We looked at several shops, but couldn't find a suitable one. By coincidence, the new house ended up right next to the Lynn family.
just a few days after settling.
In the sounds of chaos often drifted over from next door. One day, as my mother-in-law and I were about to go out shopping, a sharp female voice rang out. "Nikki, where have you been hiding? Slacking off again, not washing clothes, not cooking meals? What do you think you're doing?" As the words fell, Lucas's mother, Susan, came out with her hands on her hips. The fear she inflicted on me in my past life was still vivid in my
Mind.
I instinctively shrank back.
My
Mother-in-law mistakenly thought I was unwell, so she arranged for me to rest at home while she went to buy groceries. Before I could recover, Susan appeared, grabbing Nikki's arm. "Oh, neighbors, come take a look. Ever since I brought this daughter-in-law into the house, she's been lazy and good for nothing, doing no chores at all. Tell me, shouldn't I teach her some manners?" The alley was narrow, and the neighbors lived close by. Soon, a crowd gathered at the Lynn family's house, drawn by the commotion. Susan grabbed a club and swung it fiercely at Nikki. With nowhere to dodge, Nikki's screams grew louder and more desperate. When the crowd finally dispersed, she collapsed to the ground, battered and sobbing quietly, but with a legal document severing all ties with her second uncle and aunt. She had nowhere to turn, no home to return to, and no outlet for her suffering.
and
Lucas, with his cowardly nature, would only muddle through life, never caring how humiliating the quarrels between me
and his parents became. She noticed me.
and then cast a resentful glare my way. I met her gaze calmly, then entered the house expressionlessly. The moment I turned around, little did I know that someone lurking in the corner had already noticed everything happening here. As usual, I rode the tricycle back to the village to deliver food to Gavin. When I saw the bomb inside the old house, I was stunned. It wasn't until the bright red numbers kept counting down that I suddenly remembered the landmine that killed me in my past life had been transformed into a bomb.
I
Screamed wildly, but no matter what, Gavin wouldn't wake up. As the time was about to run out, I tried to drag him away, only to be suddenly grabbed from behind. Lucas brushed through my hair, laughing maniacally. "As long as he's dead, Wendy, you'll definitely change your mind." I struggled in despair, screaming. Fortunately, hard work pays off, and the villagers were not bystanders. Soon, Lucas was restrained. Gavin also regained consciousness. But just as everyone was evacuating, someone resolutely rushed back inside.
It was Nikki.
She could no longer endure the torment from the Lin family, and sought release through death. At the moment the countdown hit 0, she died amidst the blazing flames.
And
because Lucas had committed premeditated murder, he was quickly arrested by the
police.
When the Lin family parents received the news, it was as if the sky had fallen. But these were their own choices and no longer had anything to do with me. A few days later, we found a suitable house. Along with the shop, we moved to the town. Before leaving the village, there was something that had been weighing on my heart for a long time to clear up the villagers' long-standing misunderstanding of Gavin. I went door to door giving eggs as a token of thanks. I recounted over and over the things Gavin had done for them all these years. When the heavy rain came, he quietly gathered the dried grain for the neighbors.
When a child
Fell into the pond while fishing, he plunged and without hesitation to save them, then quietly walked away. He never defended himself, which is why his bad reputation spread. But since my rebirth, I have seen his cold exterior and warm heart clearly. I wanted to clear his
name.
On the day we left, the villagers all came to see us off. Genuine smiles lit up their faces. My mother-in-law, busy agreeing with everyone, linked her arm with mine and said with a cheerful smile, "We owe it all to me, the good daughter-in-law. My son Gavin truly married a treasure." Everyone turned their heads and began praising me one after another. Gavin, who arrived late, smiled rarely and said, "What were you chatting about with Mom? You look so happy." I playfully winked at him. Guess. Under the afterglow of the setting sun, he rode the tricycle carrying me and Grandma. Amid laughter and joy, we sped toward happiness.